Hello, it's Tammy Davis, and let's talk essential oils, shall we? But no, we're not going to talk about them in the way that we are going to get specific about oils and particular health conditions, because if you're new to my videos and are unfamiliar with the way I work, there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all approach, regardless of whether you're talking about regular medicine or natural remedies. Nothing works the same with everyone. And that's because we all have our individual genome. And I was recently formulating for a new client. She just turned 16 years of age, and she's been living with something called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, POTS. And she's currently taking 5 different medications, and her mother contacted me for assistance. And as I've talked about before, and I want to emphasize now, at no point in time do we want to do the same thing that the medications are doing. She's on some pretty heavy-duty meds, understandably so, because this young woman can't even get out of bed without losing her breath. So she's got a serious issue going on, and at the same time, mom's not seeing the results that she would like, and of course she's worried about her. I mean, the girl's 16 years of age. So, you know, my job really is not to, part of her issue is respiratory, and she is seeing a cardiologist as well as a pulmonary physician. So they've got her handled along those lines. And at the same time, they're not getting, you know, she's still short of breath. She's still very congested, has a lot of congestion in her chest, and coughs a lot and very low in energy. So my job really is to find a way to balance the medications, actually support the body so that the medications actually work more effectively, and so that she actually does get the energy and starts to feel better and starts to see improvement in her health. So that's it. While I was doing all of this, and again, if you're unfamiliar with me, essential oils, I don't select essential oils based off of a textbook or a book or a website that says that it's good for this condition. And we're going to get to a little bit as to why that is. But I really base my selections on, number 1, the constituents in the oil, number 2, the symptoms the person is dealing with, and number 3, whether or not there's, you know, what the lifestyle involves, and does that include medications and supplements? Because if it does, then we need to pay attention to, and like I said, create balance instead of attacking the body even more so. Because as we know, medications are designed to target very specific symptoms. And when I say target, I mean that literally. Drug development occurs most around the study of plant constituents, and scientists are looking at how these plant components are affecting us on a genetic level, which how they antagonize or how they maybe antagonize the receptors or play like agonists to the receptors. And what I mean by that, I'm talking fast and I apologize. What I mean by that is they have the ability to influence our genetic receptors in a way that blocks or activates activity. So that said, in looking for this young woman, in formulating for this young woman, I decided finally because, well, let me back up. The medications that she's taking all of them are affecting the hormonal system, more specifically epinephrine, norepinephrine, and there's cortisol. It's really kind of going for the adrenals, basically, and which I completely understand again. And at the same time, there's a depletion happening within the system. Now, as I've talked about previously, in the stress response, the body no longer, I should say, the breakdown of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins becomes inhibited. And even more importantly, protein and sugars at the cell level are not being broken down in small enough particles to be properly used by the body. So it's going to further escalate first of all, the stress response, and secondly, it's going to leave you feeling depleted. So right there, you're going to have some degree of fatigue, but I'm not saying that's her only problem. What I am saying, though, is her body is heavily stressed. So my job really at this point is to actually help her system digest the foods more effectively and assimilate them in a way that actually bolsters her system. So that's really the angle that I came at it. In addition to that, I actually decided to support the endocannabinoid system. And that's really the whole purpose of this video today. Because, well, it's an important piece. I mean, it's an important thing to highlight, the effectiveness of these oils. And I'm actually going to put a quote off of down here in the description box. You can read it below. That came directly from a research document that emphasized the value to essential oils when it comes to all sorts of health, especially in the area of neurodegeneration and inflammation. But you can read it below, and if you'd like to know more about it, please let me know. But that's the reason why I'm really wanting to talk about essential oils. If you haven't already gathered, they excite me. I've been working with them now for over 30 years. I did start out treating symptoms only, and realized that just wasn't getting me anywhere. So because I have a background in pharmacology, I really focused on drug development, not because I'm trying to practice medicine and not because I'm taking the place of medicine. I want to complement medicine, and this is my message to the world and to the people that I work with. This is the reason why I take on a lot of clients, because it does require extensive research. It requires an understanding of how the medications are working and actually how to create balance, and selecting oils that will do that for your specific system. The reason I say that is because a lot of plants, they have overlapping constituents. And in the case of this young girl, the one that popped up for me was one called philandrine. And philandrine happens to be a cannabinoid. And the reason it's called a cannabinoid is because it's found in the cannabis plant. Now, I don't begrudge anyone a business, and I do understand that the CBD oil is up and coming, and there's a lot of activity trying to legalize cannabis. But let me just go on record and say that these cannabinoids exist throughout nature. They're not just isolated to the cannabis plant family. And so this is an important piece for those people who aren't on the board with legalizing cannabis, or who are not wanting to become involved with medical marijuana. This provides us options, okay? So this isn't to say, hey, look, this is an unnecessary product. I fully believe in plants. There are toxic plants without question, but at the same time, I do fully believe in plants and their medicinal value. And these plants have been being used for thousands of years. This is part of the reason why we have the medications we do, because we've taken the time to understand how our ancestors and what they were using them for, and actually how these plants are in the system. Now, mind you, thousands of years ago, the world was an entirely different place, and the human species was a different species. We've evolved. Genetically, we have changed. What I mean evolved, it doesn't necessarily mean we've advanced. There are advancements, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, we've adapted. We've adapted because the world is a different place. The environment is a different place. Therefore, our plants are different. So that doesn't mean that the plants that our ancestors were using had a different effect on the body. It just means they're actually different plants, because the constituents in a plant varies depending on the nutrients in the soil, the growing season, the amount of rain. I mean, this all creates variations. And the reason why I strongly encourage genuine and authentic oils. Now, I'm saying all this because a lot of our medical professionals, there are some who, that I'm very well aware of, do not even see value to the essential oils, and and understandably so, because if you're not paying attention to, there's a couple of reasons here. So if we're unaware of potential interactions, or let's say, for instance, we have congestion, respiratory issues where there's a lot of phlegm in the chest and a lot of coughing. And so we take medications to alleviate that, like this young girl is, and I just come in and do the same thing. Something's not going to work. It's not going to seem like it's benefiting the body, because the body has a tendency to recognize a natural chemical over, it will, I shouldn't say it accepts, it uses the natural chemical before it will use man-made chemicals. And the challenge with that becomes, it'll increase the toxic levels of the medications, and depending on how well it's eliminated from the system, it is potentially dangerous. So this is a very important thing to remember. Therefore, I can understand why a lot of people go, don't use them, they don't work, because we're not mixing them properly. The other factor is if they're not genuine and authentic. There are natural, there are varying qualities to the oils, but the fact is the more, if there are any esters that have been added to the oil for fragrance, or if it's been cut, meaning that some of the molecule was removed and it's primarily just a fragrance molecule at this point, you don't have nearly the effect that you would have if you had the whole molecule. And this does occur. It's a business, folks. So there are producers that are doing this. And again, I don't begrudge anybody any business. Everybody's entitled to make their income, and at the same time, we need to be aware of the quality. I'm going to go out on record and say therapeutic is not a quality. I do understand that there's a number of companies and other professionals who are online promoting therapeutic grade essential oils. That is not a qualification. There is no way to test for therapeutic. Therapeutic essentially means having a physiological effect. And if it is a lipophilic chemical, it is going to have a physiological effect. Thereby, basically everything that we, many chemicals, we'll put it that way, many chemicals have a therapeutic effect, and they could be dangerous chemicals, such as the ones that they use in our environment for pesticides and fertilizers and such. These chemicals are lipophilic, and which means they have therapeutic effects. So be careful with the therapeutic grade, please. You want to find things that say genuine and authentic, or at least find suppliers who are providing you a breakdown of constituents, at the very least, some kind of chromatograph, or something that qualifies your oil and actually shows you what this is in this oil. Additionally, if you find suppliers that can do that for you, or you don't, if you're not sure of who your supplier is and they can provide you with the breakdown of constituents, then that's great. But you want to see it change, because once they've run out of that lot, they're going to get another shipment. They're going to get a whole new shipment in, and that shipment should have changed. There should be differences in the lot numbers and so forth. So you want to just double check everything, because this is your health, okay? And if you're using, especially if you're using medications, if you're not on any medications and you're just going natural, then then I don't necessarily think it's as big of a deal, but you have to know the difference between, if you get a fragrance grade, it's not going to have a lot of constituents in it, and they may not even provide you with the constituents. So like I said, know your suppliers. And if you're not interested in formulating for yourself, get somebody else to help you, because again, your health, you deserve to have a good quality of health. And especially if you're taking medications, and I know there's a good proportion of our population that currently is, then being aware of how to mix the two is essential. So on that note, I want to go back and revisit the whole thing about endocannabinoids. Like I mentioned, philandrine is one of them, and it comes in two various kinds. There's alpha philandrine and there's beta philandrine. Both of them have been patented, and what I mean by that is companies are now producing these chemicals. These are not coming from plant extractions. They are made in labs, and they're being used for both fragrance and flavor. And they're cannabinoids, and truthfully, well, I'm just saying that that's what they are, but they've also cited that philandrine has a number of medicinal qualities, and in fact, Chinese medicine really emphasized historically a lot of plants that had a philandrine quality to it, or I should say a constituent in it. And philandrine is known for its digestive qualities. It's for digestive health. There's some speculation that the alpha philandrine is a appetite suppressant, but the beta philandrine actually would be more of a stimulant. I do know of a number of oils that do have philandrine in them, and they do actually enhance the appetite, which tells me right there, since it's a cannabinoid, it's affecting the CB1 receptor, which is the same thing that THC does. You just don't get the psychoactive effects. So again, the point to this is emphasizing knowledge of the constituents in your oils and what they're going to do, and how they will affect your system. So philandrine happens to be one, and like I said, in the higher quality test results that you get on your oils will actually break that down between alpha and beta. A good example of an oil that has both would be angelica root, and angelica root is actually known to stimulate the appetite, pardon me. So, and then there are some oils will have a combination of cannabinoids. Philandrine isn't the only one, okay? There's humulene, which is also known as, it's also an alpha caryophyllene. That is another cannabinoid. Beta caryophyllene is another cannabinoid. Limonene, linalool, geraniol, camphene, carine, myrcene. These are all constituents that are found in other essential oils, not just cannabis. And that's, again, a really important thing for us to know, because it is possible to support the endocannabinoid system, because that is a very crucial aspect to helping reduce inflammation, supporting immune function. I'm not going to say stimulating it. We don't want to, and truthfully, in today's world, I don't know that you really want to stimulate the immune system, and there's a lot of plants that will do that. Again, you want to select your plant options based off of what you have going on. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But for the most part, I don't think very many people need an immune stimulant, especially for long term, given the rate of degenerative disease that we have on the planet. But that said, helping the body, in this case, regulating the endocannabinoid system, will actually help to begin to restore some of the immune system, but it will also help with the digestive system. And the digestive system is imperative for helping us produce and balance our chemistry and actually use the chemistry. So again, the digestive system is extremely important. So it's not just about stimulating the appetite. It's about stimulating the digestive process so that you can break your foods down, so that you can begin to produce the hormones that are necessary for every single function in your body. And but that's really the point that I want to get at with the essential oils, is they have magnificent qualities. Science knows this. They're being noted around the world for being able to, for just some of the amazing function that they provide in the system. And again, this isn't to take out the pharmaceutical industry, and this is definitely not a bashing of the those who are trying to work with CBD or legalize cannabis. This is merely information so that we can begin to so that we know we have options. Like I said, there are some people who just don't want to do certain things, and that's okay, but you have options. And knowing that we can actually support the endocannabinoid system in a way that helps to improve our overall function and will enhance the effect of our medications is really where it comes down to. It's not about depleting the system. It's about strengthening the system. And it's not about, like I said, bashing the pharmaceutical industry. I've been telling people this for a long time, and I'll say it again. I don't believe that we were given the intelligence to be able to create these things and study these things if we weren't meant to use them. And you can take that for what it means for you. And if you're not a pharmaceutical person, that's definitely, again, that's your prerogative. And I am willing and able to support everyone, because it comes down to what works for you. It comes down to what you want to do for your system. And we all have options. And so essential oils are definitely an option. But know your options, number one. And number two, know the quality of your options. Because as I said, everything, well, I don't know, scratch that word. Most everything, a lot of chemicals are lipophilic. And lipophilic means they're attracted to fat or oil, and it's the oil that carries it into the cells. We do have hydrophilic chemicals, and those don't affect us to the same degree that the lipophilic does, but they do affect our system. So in theory, everything is therapeutic. So yeah, there's that word, everything. Everything is therapeutic because it creates a physiological effect, whether it's hydrophilic or lipophilic. So please know, again, my apologies to whoever this offends when it comes to the therapeutic grade, but the fact is that there's no such way of qualifying it, and I'm not the only one saying it. A colleague of mine by the name of Robert Tisserand, somebody I met when I was first introduced to the oils decades ago, and he will agree, as well others. So it's not just me, and I think it's important that we know that. And whatever you choose, please know that I support you in good health, and less is more. Again, somebody's asked me, what does that mean? And the less we do, the more effective it is. The less information we provide the body, the more it can do for us. And keep in mind, we are being bombarded by therapeutic chemicals at all times. And the less we introduce to, but you want to remember that the natural has a benefit, but you just don't want, it sounds complex. I don't want to sign off here without acknowledging the fact that it does sound very complicated, and truthfully, it's not. It's just a matter of realizing that we just don't have to do everything, and that the body is very capable of taking care of us. It just requires a mindful input. And the less we react to the problems that we're having, and the more mindful we are about what we're actually introducing into our system as a means of stabilizing, not stimulating and not depressing, but stabilizing, and doing it and incorporating it with everything else that you're currently doing, and potentially selecting some things to take away. You might find that your body actually responds better, but the fact is that it does come together, and I wish you all well. And keep in mind, essential oils are an important part to your well-being. They're an important component to your treatment protocol, your method of taking care of you. And it is a very wise thing to be introduced into your children. And but again, the information that we have out there that indicates what oils are good or what plants are good for certain things, get a second set of eyes and ears to kind of take a look at this for you, because as an individual, we are emotionally attached to the outcome. But if we allow somebody else to kind of give you some guidance, at that point, there's a detached intention. You know, they have your back and they want what's best for you. And again, be mindful in who you select as your partner, as your wellness partner. But know that you can do this, and it all does work together. So until later, blessings, and have a great day. Bye.